Welcome to Game Changers Live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. My guest today is William Santana Lee. He's a chairman and CEO of Knightscope Inc. He's an American entrepreneur with over 25 years experience, has a broad and deep range of expertise. He's gained from several global assignments in the automotive sector and a number of startups. He's presently the chairman and CEO of Knightscope, which is a developer of autonomous data machines. So when he was at Ford, he held over 12 business and technical positions, focused on 4 continents on different functional areas. And one of the really neat things I saw in his bio is that after he secured $250 million internal funding, he founded and was CEO of GreenLeaf, which is a Ford subsidiary that became the world's second largest automotive recycler. So under his leadership, the company grew to over 600 people with over 20 locations and $150 million in sales. And so at age 28, Bill was the youngest senior executive at Ford, which must have been an amazing experience. He went on to lead several startups such as Model E Corporation, Built to Order Inc., and many more. And now he's leading Knightscope, which was founded in 2013. And they're a leader in the development of autonomous security capabilities with products such as autonomous security robots, ASRs, that provide 24/7, 365 security at hospitals, logistics facilities, manufacturing plants, schools, corporations, etc. So a lot to talk about here. Welcome, Bill, to Game Changers, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having us, Sergio. Greetings from Silicon Valley. Where you're in Miami, where's the cafecito? I mean, how are we going to do this without some caffeine?
I had to hear it. But I'm out. I need some more. Well, like we said, the mayor is excited to meet you. So whenever you come down here, we're gonna get you on what he calls the cafecito chat, which is a little video podcast that he has with tech companies that come to Miami.
Well, we'll need to do that. We need to reimagine public safety in Miami, and happy to have a discussion with them.
Well, let me tell you, it's an amazing opportunity. So you are in your facility. You can see the robots moving around there. It's such an amazing.
Keep an eye on you. You got to keep an eye on you. Yeah,
they're keeping an eye on me, exactly. So, growing up, one of my favorite movies was RoboCop.
Never heard of it.
It's a little different, but these vehicles that you see behind you are pretty amazing pieces of technology these days. So tell me a little bit about these, and then we'll get into your story as well.
Sure. They're a unique combination of self-driving autonomous technology. So think like a self-driving car, robotics, and artificial intelligence to primarily do 2 things. One, give the 2 million law enforcement and security professionals really smart eyes and ears and voice on the ground for them to be able to do their jobs more effectively. And then the second is a little less glamorous, which is to provide a physical deterrence. Just physically being there can stop a lot of negative behavior. No different than you driving down the highway and you see a marked police car on the side of the road. I don't care what speed you're doing. You are
slow down,
pump those brakes, right? Same effect.
Well, it's pretty impressive, especially these days where everything is recorded. Everything is there's eyes everywhere, right? And these vehicles also provide enhanced security because of the things that you spoke about. What other types of security products are you guys building out there, and what kind of results are you seeing?
So we have 3 in production. There's a stationary one that's to my left here. That's at ingress egress locations where a lot of humans or a lot of vehicles are coming in and out. We also have indoor one that's also to my left. It's 4 foot tall, 2 foot wide, 340 pounds. So think of at a warehouse or inside of a hospital or something like that. And the most popular one is the one that's patrolling behind me. It's the K5. We hold contracts across the country from Alaska to through Texas to Rhode Island, operating 24/7, 365, fully autonomous. No one's remote controlling these. And we've had a lot of awesome results. We've helped the law enforcement agency issue an arrest warrant for sexual predator. We helped with a domestic abuse case. We helped a security guard apprehend a thief. And the list goes on and on. If you want to learn more, just go to knightscope.com/crime, and you'll see the very long list of positive contributions we've already made to society.
Yeah, and so for companies, as a CEO of a manufacturing plant, let's say,
Yep.
um, I invest in one of these, it's going to save me in terms of not having to have, as you know, are these replacing a number of security guards that I wouldn't have to hire anymore, or is it just an enhancement to
Highly
the
dependent.
current?
Yeah, highly dependent on the client. In some cases, well, first you said investment. You're actually subscribing to a service. So the hardware, the software, the charging, the maintenance, the support, logistics setup, everything's included. All the training, kind of one throat to choke. We're responsible at an effective price of $4 to $11 an hour, depending on which machine you might need. So that's highly cost effective and certainly favorable versus a human guards between $15 to $35 an hour. An off-duty law enforcement officer armed with a weapon is around $85 an hour. So the savings can add up dramatically. Or alternatively, you can give the officer a guard that you have an ability to. It's kind of a force multiplier effect to have them have the tools for them to be in multiple locations at the same time.
Plus, you're recording, you're getting data, you're getting those, that immediate feedback. So if it
And admissible
detects
in court. And admissible in court. Yes.
admissible in court, wow, that's a game changer. Does it detect a threat? So if I'm walking down and I have a gun in my hand, does it notice that and say, okay, this guy has a gun in his hand, let me send a signal or an alarm?
So let me tell you what we have today, and then what's coming. So what we have today, we can detect a person, not the person. Additionally, we can detect the person. We can do elevated body temperature. We can read a few thousand license plates a minute. We can detect any mobile device in the area. So treat this as if it's a license plate. So a good example would be you fired someone last week. We have half a dozen Fortune 1000 corporations as clients. It didn't go well, and you're worried he's going to come back. You can blacklist his face, all his devices, as well as the license plate, and then the machines are literally on the lookout 24/7 for those detections. And then that alert goes to the officer or the guard for them to do enforcement or whatever action they might need to take. In terms of the example that you just mentioned, we have a prototype built that can detect someone brandishing a weapon in an area they're not supposed to. So as at the end of this, the use proceeds for the financing that we're doing right now is part of it is to finish that off, so we can push that into production.
That is so impressive. And when it comes to sexual predators, that's a really very interesting thing, because you're able to identify, almost like ring fence a location, right? And if that person enters with their
Yeah,
phone that gets identified, it could immediately notify the police that they're within a certain range of children.
or yeah, or scope out a place, right? You always watch the
Wow.
TVs or TV or movie scenes where the detective is falling asleep at the wheel,
Sure.
parked outside for 18 hours. Like, humans don't need to be doing that. We're short. Honestly, it's not a topic most people want to discuss, but you can't have 2 million people, officers and guards, trying to secure 300 million people across 50 states. Like, the math doesn't work. And they're
Yeah.
trying to do it with effectively the technological equivalent of a number two pencil and a notepad. So if we were to actually give them the appropriate tools, then they can be a lot more effective in communities.
That's incredible. And so let's take it back then. You started off, you got your degree, and you went to go work for Ford. Was that your
Yep.
first career move there? And then you obviously 28, you became an executive, youngest executive. Tell me about that trajectory and what was that like?
Well, I didn't come from wealthy parents, so I tried really hard. I graduated a year early from Carnegie Mellon. I found the auto industry fascinating because brands, finance, manufacturing, engineering all come together, and then something comes out of it that's tangible and can be emotional. So it's really exciting. And so I applied for the internship. I don't know, I think I have 58 resumes out, and I had my list of all the companies I wanted to go work at. And I got 57 rejections or no replies. But the number one where I wanted to work was Ford. So I got actually two offers. I went over to Detroit, and I promised myself that I would work my ass off that summer. And so they would have to hire me back. There's like no ifs, ands, or buts.
Right.
And it happened to work out. If you go on my LinkedIn profile during my tenure at Ford, it looks like I'm unemployable, because every 6 months, like, I'm moving to a new job, got a promotion or a double promotion, or it looks like I can't hold a job. But I was getting pretty good at fixing stuff, so the management kind of kept shuffling me around to go put out fires, and it was an awesome training ground for what I'm doing now.
So what is it about your approach that are you able to identify problems pretty quickly and apply solutions to it? Has that been something natural, or something that you learned?
I don't know where I learned it from, but during my tenure at Ford, I remember a couple of concepts. One, I was always trying to do my boss's job and be like 3 steps ahead of everyone else. So trying to understand where the corporation's going, where the top goals are for the management, where the operating issues might be, and trying to have the answer before it's asked. That's something I probably would, tell people might be a good idea for you to consider. The next one I would probably say don't do. I did it, but don't do. I was pretty aggressive when I was at Ford. I mean, the attitude was pretty much, you're going to promote me today or fire me, and you're going to choose every day. And I would push and push and push. I mean, a couple of times I almost got fired.
Intense.
So, but it got me a ton of experience across the entire organization. And certainly grateful for the opportunity there.
So why were you pushing so hard? What was your goal?
My last name's not Ford, so it's going to be very difficult to truly run the organization. But I had a lot of heroes that used to work there that I looked up to when I was younger. My bubble got burst once I got to the senior ranks, because it wasn't like seeing them from afar. It was dealing with them every day and being in the same meetings, and then realizing that you guys don't actually do any work. And you're just going from one meeting to another, and no one wants to make a decision. And it is just, bureaucracy to the nth degree. And then I got the opportunity with GreenLeaf to start a company within a company, which also not a good idea. And that gave me the entrepreneurial bug. Like, you give someone that's 27 years old $250 million, and go buy 22 companies in 11 months, and you got your own board, your own treasury, your own HR. And then after you're done with that gig, what do you want to do? I'm going to go be the vehicle line director for whatever vehicles. Like, it's less exciting. And so that's kind of one of the other reasons the focus on startups.
So you have a very keen focus on action, on taking action quickly, right? I mean, would you attribute that to be one of your kind of leadership traits or attributes?
Yeah, I'm comfortable making decisions with, the opposite of what a major corporation does. Typically they'll look for 80, 90, 95% of the information. In some cases, wait for 99%, and then it's too late. The decision's made for you. I'm usually making decisions with 30% of the info, 50, 60 if it's a good day. Like, you gotta, I learned during my 20s that, like, at some point you got to start trusting your gut if you have enough experience. And 9 times out of 10, I usually right. And the time that you're like, I know the piece of paper says go left, my gut says go right, but we go left, and then bad stuff happens. So you stop doing that.
Right. So your intuition then has been leading you in a lot of your success and so forth. So you went on to grow this company into a very, very large organization, and then you left there,
Yep.
right? And so tell me about what happened next.
Oh, geez, it was during the dot-com bubble madness. So it was 99. I got recruited by SoftBank Venture Capital to come out here and work on a crazy startup that they wanted, that they had funded, but they didn't have a CEO. And I had just built this company. You know, we announced it, I remember, on CNBC. Like, I moved the stock $1 that day, which was kind of cool. So they recruited me, and then the dot-com bubble burst, and that wasn't gonna happen. When I met Masayoshi Son from SoftBank, I think he was the wealthiest person on the planet that day. He had bought 25% of Yahoo when Yahoo was everything, and then the capital kind of dried up, and then 9/11 occurred, and that's pretty much what has driven me the rest of my life. Is someone I was born in New York City. Someone hit my town on 9/11, and I'm still really, really pissed off about it. So the rest of my life, I'm dedicating to better securing our country. And that's the big motivating factor to do slightly irrational, sometimes crazy things to force an outcome to happen. Because crime has a $1 trillion negative economic impact on the U.S. every single year. It's a hidden tax we all pay in blood, tears, and treasure. The country's over 200 years old. We're on our 46th president. Like, is someone going to come around and fix this problem or not? And the answer is or not. So we've taken this really tall order and said, okay, well, we're going to see if we can make the U.S. the safest country in the world. And people think I'm kidding around. And after 8 years now, they're realizing I'm not kidding around. We're going to do this.
And so, I mean, that is an amazing purpose, right? And without purpose, we're nothing, right? I think the purpose is what drives us when you believe in something that you're very, very passionate about, and you clearly are about security. But it's a tall order, right? I mean, we're talking about securing the U.S. and with everything that goes on.
But Sergio, when in this country did we change our demeanor where we're not going to go work on the hard things, the difficult things, the impossible things? That is pure Americana. And unfortunately, a part of the country has forgotten that. That's, we're not the people to take the shortcut, right? We're the people to go do the big things. And it's time that we get back on our back our footing and do exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's correct. It's taking on these problems that are much bigger than ourselves that we don't think we can solve. But, like you said, by taking action and you're able, what's great about these things, these vehicles, is that it's scalable, right? It's just a matter of manufacturing production. And if you have one of these on every street corner, the tide will start to change, over time, right? Like you said.
I think one way to think about it, Sergio, that the audience might be easier acclimated to would be you would never build a building today without a smoke detector, right? It would be probably, from a compliance standpoint, you wouldn't get the license to even operate or what have you. But it's the same thing. At some point in time, right, the cost benefit analysis and the risk and the inability to secure a location, it hits that point where you have to do this, as opposed to, oh, that's cute, or that's interesting, or that's optional, right? And now that we've proven that the technology works, the conversation becomes a lot easier. It was a lot harder back, in 2013 when we started, and everyone's like, you guys are nuts. It's not gonna work.
Well, sometimes it takes a while for the technology to catch up to make it scalable, affordable, and to that point. And you're right. Every location, every city, every major corporation needs security and needs to be a smarter form of security, more dynamic, recording things very clearly. And I think you guys are, amazingly going down the right path. So what is the future? 10, 20 years from now, where do you see Knightscope and or the industry going in terms of enhanced security?
Well, I've got at least 3 decades worth of workload in my head, in order to achieve the mission. We've got a daunting task ahead of us. You end up building a very wide, broad portfolio of technologies that's also very deep, because crime doesn't care. Terrorists don't care. Is it public sector? Is it private sector? Is it a casino? Is it a school or a movie theater or whatever? It's everywhere. It's pervasive. So you got to kind of think through every scenario. And I think we've got an opportunity to build a $30 billion company that's analogous to a defense contractor, right? You've got Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing that build a soldier anything he or she might ever need. And at the Department of Defense, there's one person in charge with a $700 billion budget, and off you go. And there's a massive amount of technological innovation for the 2+ million soldiers out there, right? Which is fine. What I have a problem with, on our own soil, there's 1 million security guards and 1 million law enforcement professionals that get up every morning and are willing to take a bullet for you and your family. And the level of technology that we provide to them as a country is beneath the dignity of this nation. And the problem is that the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice have no federal jurisdiction over 19,000 law enforcement agencies and 8,000 private security firms. There's literally no one in charge, right? So your mayor, your friend there in Miami, there's the Miami Police Department, there's the Florida State Patrol, there's the Coral Gables Police Department, there's every little department with all their own little budgets, but there's no one in charge of innovation. There's no technological roadmap. There's no risk capital. There's no process. There's no one in charge. I mean, it's a freaking mess, and somebody's going to fix it. So we're going to attempt to fix it.
So how would you go about doing that when governments are underfunded? There's this whole movement to defund the police and so forth. Obviously, funding seems to be at the heart of this, right? So what's the answer there?
Three simple strategies. First, get thousands of investors to back the company. So we're actually backed by 22,000 investors from all walks of life, from judges and lawyers to bankers and recruiters to chief security officers, NYPD detectives, FBI, CIA, DHS, bus drivers. I mean, pretty much everyone's involved. And you're going to need that kind of movement and support across the country if you want to change the country's approach to this. So one is get some serious backing, and I'm talking volume here. Second, get this deployed as many locations as possible. So we're operating across the country now, and it's early days, but we're in casinos and law enforcement agencies and hospitals and the like, and get people to use them. And then hire brilliant people to continue to innovate and build all this technology. But the proof's in the pudding is basically, is it effective or not? Did you cut crime? Yes or no? And when you start realizing that, oh, this stuff actually works, and all the problems that I used to have are starting to go away, like the funding for the machines ends up taking care of itself.
Right. Now, have you, and maybe you're not at the liberty to talk about it, are there U.S. kind of military applications here as well, right?
Broadly speaking, there's federal government opportunities, and yes, sure, the military, not on a battlefield, but think of the military police around an Air Force base, right?
Sure.
Or securing a warehouse or something like that, of course. But it's much broader than that. Just let your mind wander. Like, hey, who secures all the federal courthouses? Hey, who secures the data centers? How about the national monuments and the national parks? How about the rail system? Hey, who secures all the airports? I wonder who secures NASA. Like, you start going through the list,
just on and on and
it's
on.
just on and on. All the high value targets. How about the national laboratories? I mean, you're just going through the whole infrastructure and every agency. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of opportunities.
And so are you guys taking to the air as well, or is that something in the future that you guys are planning on in terms of like drone security or things like that?
In my opinion, drones for what we're doing for our use case are not ready for prime time. They will be in maybe 5 or 10 years, but today people are working on this, but today they can't consistently autonomously recharge, right? They can stay in the air for 5 to 20 minutes and then you're dead, right? They can carry very little sensor payload, maybe a camera or a thermal camera or something like that. You can't put much more on there. So then on top of that, you can process very little compute on the drone itself. Sometimes you have data communication, data transfer issues, and in most cases, it's not legal to fly. So other than that, it's all good to
Right.
go. But at some point in time, we'll certainly be looking at adding that.
So, this is fantastic. I think you guys have an amazing operation, and hopefully you guys will come out, to Miami and visit us here one day. Tell me, as we start wrapping this up, I always ask my guests, was there a game-changing moment in your life or something that triggered the way you think, that approach that you take to everything, that was, you can look back and say, yeah, ever since that point, my career, my thinking, the way I approach things, that really changed the trajectory of my life?
It's going to be an odd answer, I think. It was a regulatory change.
Really?
So back in 2012, the administration and Congress changed the rules on how you can raise capital. We founded the company in 2013. We're here in Silicon Valley. $130 billion goes into startups every year. You would think it'd be easy to finance this, right? No. Hey, Bill, you're out of your mind. This will never work. It's hardware and it's software. It's too complicated. You need to pick one. And physical security is not an investment thesis. You need to go away, right? So if the establishment tells you we're not going to finance this, and you still know that it's the right thing to do for the country, you're going to figure out how to force it. So the regulatory change was basically to allow a private company to do a public offering and remain private. So that's how we've been able to raise capital from all over the world, and still remain a private entity. We're talking about a possible public listing in the future, but and be able to raise capital from 22,000 investors. That was the game changer. And I think as founders and entrepreneurs start realizing that going to beg a VC for money that he usually doesn't have sector expertise in your area, because 80+% of it goes into software, a little bit goes into biotech, and then the rest into other. It's not necessarily capital that you want to be paying a premium for. There's a time and place, right? If you're working on a social media app, please, by all means, go find the social media VC, but that's not how the world works. And, less than 1% of companies get funding from a VC. And it's also can be very toxic capital if you're not careful in what you're doing. So the game changer was, hey, there's a new regulatory framework for us to be able to raise capital from people that care and are long-term investors. So I think that changed the trajectory of what I've had been doing. I mean, I've been backed by a major corporation. I've been backed by a VC. I've been through this process, but we've now raised over $70 million to build all the technology behind me from scratch. And unfortunately, I'll say I've done more financial engineering than actual engineering, which is not necessarily a good thing. But there's a new way to raise capital, and as entrepreneurs start understanding that, they'll realize that they have to ask themselves that important question when you start a company. Not just product market fit. Product market fit is capital to company fit. Do I have the right kind of capital for what I'm trying to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, when opportunity meets preparedness, right? I mean, that's the key. Well, Bill, it's been great having you on the show, my friend. Chairman and CEO of Knightscope. They're doing some amazing things in the autonomous security world. Definitely check them out. Where can they go to learn more?
Just go to Knightscope.com, and it's all there for you. And appreciate everyone taking a look.
Loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers. Please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. you may end up being the